every 100 hours you're supposed to do service on your Polaris. We're going to get started on this one. Stay with me. So Polaris has made it kind of easy if you want to be lazy and not look up all the oils and stuff. They have a 100-hour service that has everything you need in it in order to do this service. There are spark plugs, there are all your fluids, your filters, everything is in this kit. It costs about 160 bucks or so at the Polaris place. So, you know, kind of makes things a little bit easier. I'm not against using other oils. As a matter of fact, I do it in all kinds of stuff. But at this point, right now, this is a 2023 Polaris. It has, I think it has some remaining warranty on it. So I'm continuing using the Polaris stuff for this Polaris. And so we bought the kit, about 160 bucks or somewhere in that neighborhood. So let's look at what came in the box real quick. You have your gear case lubricant. This is your transmission fluid. This right here is your on-demand drive fluid, which is the demand drive fluid. This is your front axle, for your front axle on your Polaris for your four-wheel drive. This is what you put in there. Then you have two NKG spark plugs. These are decent plugs. Your new air filter, a brand new oil filter. Then you have the exact amount of oil that you need to put in the engine, new crush washer, and then they give you this handy dandy paper funnel. So reality is it's everything you need for that 100 hours of service, 160 bucks. No thinking, you just grab it and go. It's not a bad deal actually if you think about it, but it's what's supposed to be in the unit, and you don't have to go out and figure out all the different parts and which oil you're supposed to use and all that. You just grab the box from Polaris and roll with it. Need to raise the back up. I want to show you something. You got to get to the engine, and if you need to have a little more room, because there's the engine, you can remove this pin right here. Throw it on the ground like I just did. Anyways, remove this pin, and you can get more room. Let me see if I can get that out of there. So all I really did was remove this pin out of here, and by doing that, it allowed me quite a bit more room. You look at this, where this sets, this actually allowed a lot pretty good size opening here now to get to everything. And as many of you know, I'm not a little guy, so I have to have a little extra room. I think the first thing we're going to do, we're going to change oil in it. If you watched the 25-hour review, you probably saw how to change oil in it, but at the same time, it's part of the 100 hours. After 100 hours, you need to change your oil again. So change your oil. So also to help maybe get to the little bit easier access to parts of the engine, things you're going to need to get to, like the battery and so forth, because you need to do some maintenance on the battery, and I'll show you that in just a minute. My back seats are dirty because we had a coon who was trying to live in our barn back here. He's not living here anymore. He's been removed and relocated. You can get to your oil filter back here. Your oil filter's right there. You can see it there. You can spin it off and spin you a new one on. Pretty easy. Alrighty, we are under the Polaris to drain the oil. So what the drain plug under this thing is kind of hard to, not really hard to find, but you know, it's in a location here. Let me see if I can get you up in here. It's a little bit past halfway across from the driver's side, closer to the passenger side. There's an opening here in the middle. This is a steel plate here. You can see it is like an Allen key or a hex key, hex wrench, however you guys want to say it. I always say Allen wrenches. And that is your plug. It is a 6mm. It takes a 6mm Allen wrench. So I have a 6mm. It's kind of a short one. There it goes. The oil pan under it. Let's see. We're gonna let that drain for a while. Make sure there's nothing here. Okay. Yep, I dropped a crush washer just now. We'll get that in a minute. While that's draining, we're going to go ahead and go pull the filter off. While the oil's draining, let's get the filter off. We're going to make a mess, I think. Oh, maybe not. Now for my peace of mind, I always just double check to make sure the numbers are correct on the filters. And I make sure the filters look the same. I like to get a little bit of oil on my finger's dirty. Don't do that. All right. I like to get a little bit of oil on my finger. Put it on your filter gasket. I don't have a problem with getting a little more oil on there than you're supposed to. And then because the filter goes in this way, it's really hard to put oil in the filter and expect that oil is going to stay there when you put it up there. So I'm not going to put oil in the filter. Right, so let's just put the filter back on real quick. Give it a small amount of tightening here. That's it. That's all I'm doing. And clean up your mess. Try not to leave oil all over everything if you can. We did get a little bit of oil that ran out whenever we opened it up. I like to keep things as clean of oil as possible. All right, now don't forget to put your plug back in. We're going to go over here right now and put that plug back in. But also don't forget your crush washer. You have a crush washer that comes in the kit, and you need to put that crush washer on your drain plug. All that done. And then we're going to put the oil in it. Always just do one thing at a time. In other words, you're changing oil, change the oil. Don't do anything else. Get that finished, because you might forget to put your oil back in. I didn't do that, but I'm just saying you might forget to put oil back in. So stay on one task at a time. When you get ready to do this type of work, you might say to yourself, well, I'll never forget to do something. You'll be the one that will forget. Trust me. All right, let's get oil in this thing real quick. So in this kit they give you exactly how much you need. They don't give you any extra oil or anything like that. So yeah, I kind of wish they would, because sometimes your engine's going to use a hair bit of oil in between oil changes, and you might want to top it off a little bit. But they only give you exactly what you need. So you get basically 2.5 quarts of oil. All right, we've got the oil changed in it. We're going to go ahead and change this air filter out real quick and show you how to do that. It shouldn't be a whole lot to it. Pop these loose, and you have this little clip right here you need to pick up on. You see it right here. There's a clip right here you need to pick up on, and then you have one on the bottom as well. You pop that clip, and then you can get that off. Here's the air cleaner. It's not too bad actually, but we'll go ahead and change it out like it's supposed to. We're going to double check to make sure we have the right air filter as well. It's right here is the number 7082265. 7082265. That's it. So we'll go ahead and stick this air filter in it. Make sure all the debris is out of here, and that should do it. And then you want to put your cap back on. It says up, so put your cap back on with the up position. Snap that back in place, and your air filter is in. All right, we're going to clean this battery up. That is just looks terrible. We're not going to take it out. We're just going to clean it up right where it sits. But yeah, don't let your batteries get like this, like I did. It's not that super bad, but it's corroded. Let's clean this battery up and make it look a lot nicer and get all that corrosion off of it, and see if we can get it all fixed up. I cleaned it up. Now I put actual grease on my terminals sometimes. I have the spray stuff, but this sits down here, gets wet all the time, and grease will hold up better than probably that spray stuff you buy. Some of you are like, why you use grease? It's just going to collect dirt. Yeah, it's going to collect dirt, but if you know anything about what causes corrosion, normally there's a little bit of a gap between the poles and where the acid is in the battery, and that acid gets up through here. In this case, I had actually had corrosion all over here too. That means acid was coming out of here, bouncing around out in the pastures, stuff like that. That doesn't surprise me. I actually put grease here just to kind of help seal up stuff, but it looks pretty good to me. I'm happy with it. Just grease your terminals up real good. It's going to collect some dirt, but you know what? It should stop the corrosion, and I should have a good contact on the battery. All right, we're going to do the gearbox or the transmission on this thing. It uses an AGL transmission fluid that goes in it. Now it says it holds 41 ounces. I've got 2 full quarts of this, so that means I should have some left over when I'm done. Let's go show you where all that's at and how to do it. All right, if you come in from the back of the Polaris, go down here on the ground, coming in here underneath the muffler, this right here is your fill plug. The drain plug for this transmission is right here. So you have the drain plug for this transmission and the fill plug. So now I need to find something to get in here in order to get fluid into this thing. Oh boy. So you're probably going to need a funnel, something like this, because you got to get up inside that hole. So before you start this process, make sure you have something like this. All right, so you want to be able to have a funnel that will fit in that hole so that you can get fluid in there, and I do, and that's what this is. So invest in a funnel before you take this apart. All right, we can go ahead and drain it now. This is an 8mm Allen or hex key, whatever you want to call it. All right, we've got the plug out, and I've cleaned this plug off. There's a little bit of stuff on it, not much, but there's a magnet on the end of this, and it could have metal on it or something like that. It's catching that in the oil. Remember, this is a transmission, gears are clashing and everything's going on in there. So you want to make sure you clean this off before you put this back in. Make sure this is good and clean, and then just set it back in there. All right, being that I know that this transmission is supposed to have 41 ounces in it, instead of sitting here waiting for that to come out, I know I can pretty well pour a full brand new quart in it. That's 32 ounces, and then I'll have to add some after that. So I'm going to go ahead and put a full quart in it. It's a little bit of a purple color to this stuff, so it's going to be a dark color. It's going to look like almost like it's used already, but it's not. I put 32 in it. We know it holds about 41 ounces. I put 32 in it so far, so I've got to add at least another 9 or so ounces. Is that right? 9 ounces? Yeah. Okay, we are full. It is now. It's actually running a little bit. It's running out, so I went a little bit over with it, not much, just a little bit, and it's down to where it's supposed to be. You want it at the bottom of the plug, and that's what we have. You have a drive at the front of your Polaris that you need to change the fluid in as well. You want to come in from the passenger side, and you can get to that. Now they recommend that you remove the tire. We're not going to remove the tire on the passenger side. We're just going to go underneath and open everything up, and I'll show you where that's at. You want to use the proper fluid. This is the man drive fluid. It's what it's meant for this. From the passenger side, you're going to go behind the front tire, and you're going to go in here. Right here is the plug on the side of the transfer case. You go underneath and there's a hole in the frame, and your plug is right there for draining this. My suggestion is that you remove this plug first. Remove this plug first. Make sure that you have a funnel that can get down in here so you can get the fluid back in it. And then you want to bring your fluid levels up to the bottom of that plug. Now, according to the manual, this should hold 9.1 ounces. With the kit, I got 16 ounces, so it should just use a little over half of the bottle to fill this up. It's the same process as what we did on the back. We're going to drain the fluid out, make sure the plug's clean, put the plug back in after the fluid's drained, and then refill it. Make sure you have the right funnels. Make sure you have the right funnel, okay? Because where that's at is very hard to get to. You also want to check your antifreeze levels. On mine, you go on the front hood, unclip these, remove your hood, and there's your bottle. Now, I have already added fluid to this, so I know it's in good shape, but you want to bring it up to your coal line. This is your max coal line right there, and you just want to make sure that you keep fluid at that level. All right, we're going to talk about brake fluid real quick. The brake fluid on this is on the driver's side. It's underneath. Here's the tire. Come in on the driver's side, the front driver's tire, and back up in here is the brake fluid. And what I like to do is just take a light, stick behind it. See if I can do this without blinding. Somehow stick a light behind it, and you can see the fluid in it. There we go. See the fluid level? It looks good. This fluid's not that old, it's full. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to sit there, I'm not going to change that out. We're not doing anything with it. The fluid's good. That's the brake fluid. Every plug you have on this thing has a torque spec of some type. And so you want to use your owner's manual. You want to look at those torque specs. All right, so you have 2 spark plugs. There's one on both sides of the engine. It's a little bit tight. Work that off there. Come on. Good grief. What this one? Wow. Well, let's see how we can pull these off. All right, those spark plug wires were on there tight. I had to set the camera down and really pull on them to get them to come off, but they came off and they didn't break anything. So, all right, quick update. I struggled with this for a minute. I grabbed the original spark plugs, I grabbed the new plugs that I got, and I made sure that the socket I had would fit them. It did. It's either a 16 millimeter or it's a 5/8. Either one will fit. And then I started to take the plugs out of the engine, which are the original plugs, and it wasn't getting them. And it's down inside the engine just a little bit, not very far, and it was hard to see. The original plugs are 14 millimeter. They're not 16. And when I would set that socket down in there, it would just spin around them, and I couldn't figure out what was going on at first. I thought it wasn't going deep enough, and so I kept playing with it, looking at it, seeing if I was going down deep enough, and I was. But the original plugs that came in this thing are actually 14 millimeter. We're going to pull these plugs out just and see if they are the same plugs. I hope they are. They're supposed to be. We'll find out in a minute. All right, we had a little bit of a problem yesterday. We didn't get to finish up the full service, and the reason is because after trying to figure out what was going on with the spark plugs, I found out that the spark plugs that came in this particular kit were wrong. So we had to stop and go get new spark plugs. Now, I don't really know who to blame for that, because the kit itself was supposed to fit my Polaris. But if you look on the box, right here it says it's for an XP. I don't have an XP. I have a 1000 Crew, or a premium. And so there are a little bit differences in them, but everything else is identical. Everything's the same. All fluids are the same air filters, everything. But when I got to the spark plugs and I pulled the one plug out, they were not the same plugs. So I had to stop. We had to regroup. Had to call down to the Polaris place and say, hey, got a problem. They said bring the plug in and we will take care of it. Now the new plugs are already pre-gapped. They check out fine. And so that's something to think about too, is that you don't have a lot of gapping that you have to worry about. Wouldn't hurt to gap them or check them just to make sure they're proper and what they're supposed to be, but they're gapped already. Just to make sure that everything is like it's supposed to be before you get done. These are the plugs that came out, and to be honest with you, these plugs don't even look like they need to be changed at all. They're in very, very, very good shape. And one of the things, in my opinion, that helps keep them looking like this is not to use your machine in high all the time, but to run it in low, especially when you're just running around out in the pasture. I know that there's some might argue that, but you want that engine, that RPM to be up on that engine. You don't want to, you're not trying to over rev it, but you need to have some RPM on these engines, and that keeps your plugs from fouling and keeps them clean. You saw the plugs on this thing. They are as clean as they can be. So I think I'm going to save these in case something happens to my other ones. These are in so good shape. All right, we have completed everything that's in the kit. Now there are other things on the 100-hour service that you need to take care of. Basically, they just want you to go over your whole machine and make sure the machine's in good, proper working order. Now we're going to have to come back in and we're going to have to do some of this, and hopefully we can do that on another video. This one's over though. Until next time, thanks.